Hello, everybody. Vasu Vada Party here for the VPartySports podcast for this Thursday afternoon, October 27th, 2022. What a week we've got going. Coming up this weekend, the NFL Week 8, college football gets going again for the ninth week. 3 games on the board tonight. Don't forget, we are sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio. 10% off your entire bill during NFL Sunday Ticket if you mention the podcast. The next 5 Sundays, we'll be there to do our show live. In fact, I'll be there tomorrow to do a show live, previewing the World Series as well, too. But the Brit Sports Pub and Patio, downtown San Jose, near the arena. Mention the podcast, you'll receive the 10% off your bill during NFL Sunday Ticket hours. Our show goes from 9:30 to 10:30 every Sunday. We'll be there for the next 5 weekends, as we said. All right, right off the bat, because I know people want to get to the best bets segment, I'm going to give you one right now. The best bet segment, part 1, the Brooklyn Nets at +3. I know they lost to Milwaukee last night, but they're going home to a Dallas team that got thumped by New Orleans Tuesday night. Dallas comes in as a 3-point favorite. Brooklyn Nets with Irving, with Durant, Ben Simmons. Maybe he'll take a shot or two tonight. The Brooklyn Nets +3 against the Dallas Mavericks. We'll get to the rest of the best bet segment a little bit later on in the show, but let's start with Week 8 of the NFL. Tonight on Thursday Night Football, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What's going on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? They have lost 2 in a row. They lost to Carolina last weekend, 21-3. The offense did not do anything. Tom Brady could not get in contact with any of his receivers. The running game was pitiful. It's been all poor all year. In fact, they're 32nd in the NFL this year in rushing the ball. The Buccaneers offense, passing-wise, is right around the number 8 and 9 mark. I don't have the number in front of me, but Tampa Bay is still a 2-point favorite over the Baltimore Ravens. 46 is your total. We know Tampa Bay hasn't scored a lot. The points per game have been up for Baltimore in terms of defense. They've given up about 23 a game, but they're scoring about 24 a game. As I get to the standings here, I'm gonna make sure I be accurate here on this. But I know that the Ravens have given up 23 points a game. And we'll get it right here. And the run defense for Tampa Bay has been very good, but their pass defense has been poor as well. Here we go. Tampa Bay down near the bottom in total offense, points per game. They are averaging 17.7 per game. The offense has not been in sync all year. Baltimore is 3rd, 4th, 5th. They're 6th in the league. They're averaging 25.9 points a game defensively. Tampa Bay averaging 17.7 points allowed per game on defense. Is that right here? Yeah. There we go. 17.7 on defense. And then Baltimore averaging 23 a game on offense. So what to make of it for tonight? Well, Baltimore can run the ball. They're 5th in the league in rushing. The number 5 rusher in the National Football League is their quarterback, Lamar Jackson. How about that? Lamar Jackson leading the way for the Baltimore Ravens. They lost J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards is right there. He scored 2 touchdowns last week against the Browns. They got a 23-20 victory against the Browns last week. So here we go. Let me find these numbers here for you so we can get to it. But basically, the Ravens, a 2-point underdog tonight versus Tampa Bay for Thursday Night Football, 8:15 Eastern on Prime Video if you have it, or go to your local sports bar. Go to the Brit Sports Pub and Patio. Go watch it on their TVs as well there too. Mention the podcast and see Jasper and see the staff there. They'll treat you well tonight. 173 West Santa Clara Street. Tampa Bay 246. Their passing offense has been really good. They're 7th in the league in passing offense, last in the league in rushing. Baltimore's rush defense, that's what I want to get to. Baltimore's rush defense has given up some yards. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They are 9th, 10th in the league in yards allowed rushing. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay is 14th. They're averaging 118 yards given up. Is Tampa Bay. Baltimore averaging 105 per game is what they're averaging on defense in terms of rushing. Now, passing yards per game, defensively, Tampa Bay, they're 6th, only letting 190 yards per game, whereas Baltimore is down near the bottom, 26th in the league, averaging 261 yards a game in terms of Baltimore's defense on the pass game. So what does that tell you? It means that Brady, if he can connect with his receivers, he'll be able to move the ball a little bit on the Ravens. The Ravens have given up points this year, but the Ravens offensively, Tampa Bay has not shut the run down. and Lamar Jackson, the dual threat. He's 19th in the league in passing right now in terms of passing yards, but he's 5th in the league in rushing, as we said. So pick your poison there with the Baltimore Ravens. John Harbaugh trying to get his team going. They're 4-3 after their win versus the Cleveland. They last week 23-20. They had a big lead. Cleveland came back. They are tied with Cincinnati at 4-3. They have the head-to-head record against the Bengals, so they're in first place right now. Tampa Bay, how about this division, the NFC South? Everybody in that division under 500, but the Buccaneers lead the division at 3-4. They have the tiebreaker over Atlanta. If Carolina jumps up and wins this weekend and Tampa Bay loses tonight, then they would end up being 3-5. Of course, Atlanta would move up to first place, but Carolina would move all the way up to second place. Didn't Carolina just trade their guys? Didn't Carolina just trade Christian McCaffrey and Robbie Anderson to different teams? McCaffrey to the 49ers and Anderson to the Arizona Cardinals last week. So Tampa Bay 2-46 for Thursday Night Football. The Bucs have lost 2 in a row. That Carolina game, they were a 13.5-point favorite. If you go back to Sunday where we were at the Brit Sports Pub and Patio last Sunday, you heard me say it's tough to lay double digits on the road to any team in the NFL. We know that Carolina just traded their guys. They were really looking very poor. P.J. Walker was their quarterback. They traded McCaffrey, as we said. Baker Mayfield is hurt. Sam Darnold is hurt. They had to go to third-string quarterback P.J. Walker, and all he did was tear up the Buccaneers' pass defense. He had a touchdown pass as well as a couple runs for the Carolina offense. Look for Chuba Hubbard, by the way, for you fantasy people. Now that McCaffrey's gone, Chuba Hubbard out of Oklahoma State is going to be your fantasy running back for the Carolina Panthers. They don't really have a throwing game right now, but they're going to have to try and run the ball is Carolina. But we'll do all that on Sunday as far as Carolina. But you got to think with a Thursday night game and Tom Brady, I know Tom Brady is meticulous at everything he does. You got to think that people in Tampa were looking past Carolina to get to Thursday Night Football against a very tough quality opponent in the Baltimore Ravens. And sure enough, if you don't watch yourself in the NFL, you're going to get your behind chewed out. And Carolina did chew them out. 21-3, they lost. They're still in first place because they have the tiebreaker over Atlanta in a head-to-head win. But the game they played against Atlanta, that was a pretty poor game too. They had a big lead, but Atlanta came back and scored and covered that game as well too. If you had Tampa Bay minus 11.5 in that game. So 2-46 for Thursday Night Football. Cleveland coming off a win. After their win over Cleveland last week, they have a 4-3 record. Baltimore has a 4-3 record after beating Cleveland last week. They are on the road at Tampa Bay. Then they'll get 10 days off. So we gave you the numbers for Baltimore passing and rushing. Great rushing attack, number 5 in the NFL. Passing attack down to 19th. The Buccaneers rushing defense, last in the league. Buccaneers passing defense, 7th in the league. What do you do if you're John Harbaugh? Seems like you run the ball, and I think they've got a good chance. Tampa Bay with a lot of injuries, not only the linebacking core, but also on the front defensive end. So you might want to take a chance that with Baltimore rushing the ball. I read a number yesterday. If you're looking to bet this game, I'll give you my take on it a little bit later. But if you're looking to bet this game, you got to look at Baltimore in the first half because they outscore their opponents by 7 points in the first half alone. So they're plus a half. I think somebody on one of the ESPN shows mentioned that as well too. So that's a possibility as well too. But for the game, we'll get you the game pick in a second. But right now, that's the game for Thursday night. Let's move on to college football here. NCAA football tonight. 3 games on the board, 1 ACC, 1 Pac-12, and then 1 Conference USA, which we won't get into. But North Carolina State, a 13.5-point favorite against Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech does not score. We know that. The total is 39.5. Utah 7 at Washington State. That total is a little bit higher. In fact, let me give you that total right now because I know 39.5 is pretty low. 56.5 for Utah, Washington State. So here's the deal with North Carolina State. They are in first place in the ACC West, I believe it's called. The ACC, let's see, how do they call it? The ACC Atlantic, the ACC Coastal. So they're first in the ACC Coastal, 3-0. They got a 2-game lead in the loss column on Georgia Tech. Meanwhile, Virginia Tech is last in the Coastal. They're 1-3. They have given up 176 points and only scored 134 points in 4 games. So that's about 30 a game. So that's not that bad. But you got to think that North Carolina State has scored 292 points and allowed 227 points. So 39.5 might be a stretch here for the over. In conference play, Virginia Tech has only scored 80 points in 4 games and given up 116. Meanwhile, North Carolina State in 3 games has scored 106 and given up 69. So 36 points a game, 37 points a game, 38, 39. I'm doing math in my head. 39 points a game for Carolina to 23 given up. Meanwhile, in 4 games, 20 for Virginia Tech and nearly 30 on defense for their defense, for the Hokie defense. So 2 good games tonight. 4:30 Pacific time for North Carolina State, 13.5-point favorite. Utah, 7-point favorite at Washington State. We go to the Pac-12 here. Pac-12 has been different this year. Some good defense shown this year, not by USC or UCLA, but Washington. Washington has played pretty well to start. They've struggled a little bit. Washington State, 1-3 in conference, 93 points scored, 107 given up. Utah, 3-1, 151 points scored, 113 allowed. A lot of that was to UCLA and USC. They gave up 45 points to both USC, and I think they gave up 42 points to UCLA. 45 to UCLA, 42 to USC. So that's 89 of their 113 points that they've given up in conference play. So take that into account when you're thinking about laying 7 at Washington State. Now, Washington State, as we said, has scored 93 in 4 games. They've given up 107 in their 4 games. I'm looking at the scores right now. They beat Wisconsin. That's their signature win of the year at Wisconsin, 17-14. They thumped Colorado State. That's a non-conference game. They Oregon got 44. By the way, how hot is Oregon? We'll talk about Saturday's football on the Saturday show. And then they thumped California 28-9 2 weeks ago before losing to USC last week. So that's your college breakdown for today. North Carolina State versus Virginia Tech. Utah versus Utah at Washington State tonight. It's laying 7 points, 56.5 the total. North Carolina State 13.5 and 39. The other game tonight, Louisiana and Southern Miss, just to give you an idea. ESPN has them at 51.4% to win the game. Southern Miss 48.6. They are laying the 2.5 points, a total 43 in that game, points per game, 27-19 for Lafayette. And then Southern Miss averaging 25 a game, giving up 21-9. It's a big game in that Conference USA. We'll go through the standings here real quick. The ACC, we'll find it later. Anyway, the Conference USA, they have them. It's not a game that we usually talk about on the board right now, but it is Lafayette against Southern Miss in Conference USA. 2.5-point favorite. But the big games in college football are North Carolina State at 13.5 and Utah 7 at Washington State. All right, when we come back, we're going to take a break. We'll have our best bet segment where we're going to go through a little NBA. We're going to go through a little hockey. We'll talk a little World Series today, but we'll have a full preview of the World Series tomorrow. Game 1 with the Houston Astros hosting the Philadelphia Phillies. Tell you the series price. We'll get you the particulars going into it, and then we'll have a full preview tomorrow as we have a guest tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific from the Brit Sports Pub and Patio. We'll do our show there, and then we'll replay it again at 6 o'clock for those of you that are interested. And then Saturday morning, 10 a.m., 7 a.m. on the West Coast, we'll have a full college preview show before the big slate on Saturday of a lot of games. But right now, it's Thursday Night Football. It's NCAA football, NBA, NHL, and preview of the World Series. All right, back in 30 seconds with the Make the Money and Run podcast. Welcome back to the VPartySports podcast, sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio in downtown San Jose. Mention the podcast and receive 10% off your entire bill, not just the food bill, the entire bill during NFL Sunday Ticket Sundays. We were there last Sunday. We'll be there for 5 more Sundays, 9:30 to 10:30 Pacific time. If you're in the Bay Area, come on down. Mention the podcast, get your 10% off. enjoy a great slate of NFL Sunday football for you on that Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon. We had a good time last week with the staff as well. The first half of the show will play the sound inside the restaurant on the patio, as well as, and then in the second half of the show, the sound will be off so you can get to the games, and then you can stay with us on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks to everybody on Facebook Live. Thanks to everybody on YouTube Live for checking in with us as well, too. All right, we went through the Thursday night game. Let me run through it real quick. As we said, Tampa Bay a 2-point favorite, 46 the total for Thursday night football. Bucs have lost 2 in a row, including that loss to Carolina. I'm sure they won't admit it, but a lot of me thinks that they overlooked Carolina coming into this game. But Carolina, they're 3-4, still in first place by virtue of their head-to-head over Atlanta. Baltimore leads the AFC North. They're 4-3 after a close win versus Cleveland. Baltimore's rush attack is where they're going to focus on tonight with Lamar Jackson as well as Gus Edwards. Not sure about the injury report yet. You'll have to check that. 90 minutes before the game is when the injury reports come out. As of now, Mark Andrew is playing. We will check that. In fact, I'll check it right now for the injury reports for the Thursday night game. The injury reports have Mark Andrews is questionable. Rashad Bateman, their wide receiver, questionable. Marcus Peters is questionable. Marlon Humphrey, the other cornerback, questionable. Josh Burns, questionable. For Tampa Bay, we know Antoine Winfield Jr. is out. Sean Bunny Murphy is out. Akeem Hicks is out. Julio Jones is a game-time decision as well. And Luke Gecke, one of their guards. Of course, Ryan Jensen's going to be out all year with the with his injury. Tom Brady's center going to be out all year, and I think that has a lot to do with their mistiming right now going on for Tampa Bay as they've lost 2 in a row. All right, let's move to the NBA here a little bit. As we get to the NBA, let me give you the lines here. The NBA lines for tonight, there's 4 games. We talked about the Dallas Mavericks. They're going to Brooklyn tonight. They're a 3-point favorite, 225 the total. Brooklyn coming off their loss yesterday at Milwaukee. They had a 12-point lead at the half. Milwaukee turned on the defense and took them apart. They ended up beating them by 12 last night. The Clippers are at Oklahoma City. They lost the other night. The other night they lost. On Tuesday night, they lost to the Thunder as well. They lost 108-94, but today they're going to have their guys back. They didn't have Paul George. They didn't have Kawhi Leonard tonight. They've got Kawhi Leonard is still out. Josh Giddey is out for Oklahoma City. Marcus Morris Sr. is out. Paul George will likely to play, but check the injury report before you get there. But they're 6-2-18. They got blown out by Oklahoma City 2 nights ago. Don't think that that's going to happen again. But there they are. The Clippers are -6-2-18. That's at 8 o'clock. Golden State, they are 2-2 right now after losing to Phoenix on Tuesday night. They got beat pretty handily by the Phoenix Suns the other night. 6-point favorite versus Miami, who ended up beating Portland. Damian Lillard went out yesterday. He's going to be out for 2 weeks, by the way. So that really impacted Portland's offense. 227.5, but I got a good feeling about Miami tonight. 227.5. And then the Memphis Grizzlies behind John Morant. He's averaging 35 a game. Can you believe that? 35 a game. I know it's only been 5 games, but they're going to Sacramento. Sacramento scores a lot. The total here is 236.5. If you think that Sacramento can match point for point with Memphis, then you're likely going to take the over at 236.5. But it's a light schedule in the NBA. Mavericks, Nets. Dallas got beat by New Orleans on Tuesday night. They were the first half of the doubleheader on Tuesday night. They were ahead big. They had a double-digit lead, but Zion Williamson, without Brandon Ingram and without Zion Williamson, C.J. McCollum and the rest of the staff came through for New Orleans. They ended up beating them by double digits in that game. If you had a live bet on that game on Tuesday night, you would have gotten great odds. You would have gotten about 400 odds at the peak where Dallas was up 12, 13 points. So Pelicans up. So the Pelicans win that game on Tuesday night. So Dallas looking to come back off of that, but they're going to have a tough time with Brooklyn tonight. I'm telling you, Brooklyn, after their loss last night, they play very well at home. 225 the total. 3 is the line. Brooklyn getting 3 at home. With that offense, you think they would score some points. If they can play any defense right now, we'll go for there. And then Memphis, Sacramento, the other one. Golden State versus Miami in San Francisco tonight. Golden State losing the other night. Miami winning last night at Portland. All right, we move on to the NHL here a little bit. 10 games in the NHL. They're highlighted both by the Florida Panthers, Philadelphia Flyers, both 4-2. Boston Bruins, everybody thought they were going to struggle coming in. They're 6-1. They've got the Red Wings tonight, who look to be up from last year. They're 3-1. The Blackhawks have won 4 in a row, and they're a big dog at home. They're about $1.70 underdog against Edmonton. I know Edmonton's pretty good, But Chicago winning four straight against some pretty good opponents. They've got Edmonton tonight. Edmonton is pretty good. They're 4-3. They've scored 25 goals in their 7 games. They've given up 21. Meanwhile, Chicago has 20 goals in their 6 games and has only given up 17. So defense has been very good. And then one to watch tonight is the Dallas Stars hosting the Washington Capitals. Alexander Ovechkin looks for second all-time in scoring points. He's a couple of goals away from Gordie Howe to overtake him for second place and go after the great one, Wayne Gretzky. Ovechkin having himself a pretty good start to the year. The Washington Capitals are 4-3 after 7 games. Dallas Stars in first place in their Central Division. They are 4-2. Washington 4-3. So that'll be a pretty good matchup. Dallas pretty heavy favorite there. So if you're thinking Washington might win, that'd be a good spot to lay an underdog on Washington. By the way, Boston's a $2 favorite against Detroit, who's played pretty well this year, but Boston's 6-1. So you got to look at that as well too. All right, real quick, we're just going to hit a World Series preview. The series price for the Philadelphia Phillies, Houston Astros. Houston will get home field. They have the best record amongst the teams that are left. Obviously, the Dodgers did not make it past the first round. Excuse me, I had to take my breath there after saying that again, after the Dodgers lost to the Padres in the division series. And then Philadelphia ends up beating San Diego in the LCS. Houston swept the Yankees in the American League Championship Series. So game 1 will feature Justin Verlander, and Philadelphia is going to go with Aaron Nola. Some thought that they were going to go with Zach Wheeler to start, but the idea was that Zach Wheeler coming off injury, one more day of rest will help him. He'll get the game 2 start. Plus, Aaron Nola hadn't started since that game 2 debacle where he started off well against the Padres and then gave up those 5 runs in the 4th inning to lose that game. That's their only loss of the series. That's their only loss of the postseason was game 2 against San Diego in the NLCS. Actually, take that back. They did lose one game of the Braves in the NLDS. They lost 1 to San Diego in the NLCS. So they've got 2 losses coming in. They're hot. They've got a bullpen going. But the odds makers still think that Houston at minus 190 for the series price. Don't have the line yet the lineups yet for game 1 tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern on Fox. We'll have a preview for you at 11:30. We're attempting to get Marty Lurie of the San Francisco Giants pre- and post-game shows. This year he saw a lot of baseball. He sees every team, and he sees every ounce of baseball that he can during the year, and he's a good resource to get. The World Series tomorrow, 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific on Fox. 11:30 Pacific time, 2:30 Eastern time for an intricate preview of the World Series. All right, so what you're waiting for now, the best bet segment. I know a lot of you wait for this. By the way, I wanted to tell you, I am about 68.5% in the NFL for the games that I picked for the show. Those are the same ones that I take for myself. So 68.5% in the NFL, that is profit right now. So you got to just figure that the NFL is the way to go for me right now. So I gave you this Brooklyn one already. They're at home. They're getting 3 points at home. Home dogs are against. I did have Portland last night, and that was tough. Of course, when you don't have Damian Lillard, the 30-point scorer, it's going to impact your offense a little bit. So that's the one I gave you early. Now for the rest of the best bet segment for today on Thursday, I am going with the Ravens. I like that running game. Tampa Bay cannot stop the running game. If they can keep Tom Brady off the field by getting first downs, rushing the ball, Edwards, Jackson, even some wide receiver handoffs. Jackson minimally throws the ball the way he has in the past few years. He's 19th in passing yards, a little less than 2,000 right now going into week 8. So the Baltimore Ravens at +2 tonight to give Tampa Bay a 3rd straight loss over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baltimore will increase their record to 5-3. I think they'll win the game outright. So we'll see how that goes. They barely beat Cleveland last week. They barely beat Cincinnati 2 Sundays ago. But I think this might be a time for them as an underdog to be able to get the victory. And it may be going away. I know it's Tom Brady, but maybe it's going away. In fact, I'll give you these spread records right now before I let you go in the NFL. The spread records, and we'll have a full detail on Sunday with all the spread records for the games that are going to be there on Sunday. The Baltimore Ravens are 2-4-1 total, but 0-3-1 at home, but 2-1 on the road. So there you go. Tampa Bay 3-4 overall, 1-2 at home, 2-5 against the spread, 0-3 at home. So that tells me And with the Baltimore rushing game, Tampa Bay's inability to stop the rush, and their injuries on defense right now, that Jackson may have a successful night, and the Ravens get after it, go after Tampa Bay and beat them outright. So Baltimore +2 in the NFL. North Carolina State, -13.5. Told you about Virginia Tech's struggles on offense. They can't score the ball. North Carolina State can score the ball. 39 a game they're averaging in conference, and they're averaging nearly 50 overall if you include the non-conference games. 13.5. Virginia Tech offense, not very good. The defense been okay, but I got to see them stop this North Carolina State. North Carolina, I'm sorry, it's North Carolina. You know what? My math. It's North Carolina -13.5. So let me take that down right now. North Carolina -13.5 against Virginia Tech. I got them confused with North Carolina State last week, so my bad. There we go. I'm going to get a comment right now. JJ, how you doing, JJ? What's up, Vasu? How you doing? I'm looking forward to seeing one of your games called this weekend. By the way, you and Todd Quarter, JJ Jurjevic. I hope I pronounced that well. I like the Ravens as well, too. Thanks for the comment. Forget the fact that I just said North Carolina State. It is North Carolina. Let me edit that here so I make sure I get that right. It is North Carolina, UNC. You know, you do all this preparation, and it all comes down to pot. Anyway, North Carolina -13.5. And there you go. North Carolina -13.5 versus Virginia Tech. Utah -7. So the best bets will be North Carolina -13.5. Hey, sometimes we wing it when you're doing it all by yourself. No producer. You just got to go with it right now. So once again, your best bets for tonight. The Brooklyn Nets +3 against the Dallas Mavericks at home. +3. They're going to come back and win after last night. Baltimore Ravens +2. North Carolina -13.5. The Warriors. I'm going to go with the Warriors. The Warriors have given up 70 points in the first half, 3 straight games. They're going to have to figure out how to play defense. Miami came out and played well last night at Portland. They scored a lot of points against a Portland team that generally doesn't play good defense, but the Trailblazers were 4-0 coming into last night. And chances are you're going to lose if you're going to lose your best player, and that's Damian Lillard. He'll be out for 2 weeks, so I'll be interested to see how Portland recovers from that. But right now, 227.5 in Oracle. Miami coming in on a roll. They did lose to Toronto on Monday, but they came in, played well on the road. They're 1-0 on the road, their only road game. And I think they're going to score some points at Golden State. Golden State's a 6-point favorite. I'm interested to hear what people think, if they can cover the 6 points or not after what happened in Phoenix. But giving up 70 points, 3 straight games, that's going to be tough. And I think Miami can score 227.5, look to go over. Talked about Brooklyn already. In hockey, the Seattle Kraken, the expansion team from last year, playing well. They're laying 130 tonight, and I believe that they're gonna win that game outright. So there you go. My 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks for tonight for this Thursday. For the Baltimore Ravens +2, North Carolina, UNC, not North Carolina State, 13.5 over Virginia Tech, Golden State, Miami, over 227.5, Brooklyn +3 tonight against Dallas, and the Seattle Kraken laying at $130. Who are they playing? They have a pretty interesting matchup tonight. They are going to go at $130 tonight for that game as well too. They have I wrote this down. They have the Vancouver Canucks, who've started out poorly. They're 0-4. The Vancouver Canucks are 0-4. Seattle with a big win over Buffalo the other night on Tuesday night at home. They have a great crowd. That's a great arena. Kraken 130 tonight. So there are your 5 picks for today. Don't forget, on Sundays, the Brit Sports Pub and Patio downtown San Jose, near the arena. If you've been to Sharks games, if you live in the Bay Area, you know the downtown San Jose area, mention the podcast and receive 10% off your bill during NFL Sunday ticket days. We'll be there on Sunday, 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. West Coast time. Come in and watch the show live. If not, tune us in on Facebook and YouTube as well. Check out the staff. Check out the menu. Come down and enjoy NFL Sunday ticket. Total week eight of NFL action. After tonight, don't forget there's a Sunday morning game, like early morning, 9:30 Eastern from London. It'll be the Denver Broncos, and I believe it's Broncos and Jaguars. Denver Broncos, Jacksonville Jaguars, 6:30 a.m. on the West Coast. Jacksonville, just to give you a heads up, an early 2.5-point favorite. No word on Russell Wilson. All right, that is going to do it for today. I'm Vasi Vadaparty, the VPartySports podcast. sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio in downtown San Jose. Mention the podcast during NFL Ticket Sunday. Receive 10% off during NFL Sunday Ticket. And don't forget to check them out during the week for all their happy hour specials. They've got music every night. They're open 7 days a week. Staff is great. The food is good. Of course, you can get all the drink you want there, downtown San Jose. Tonight is a hockey night in San Jose, so go check it out. They're always busy. Before hockey games, you can watch the football game. You can catch some NBA. You can catch other NHL games as well, too, as Jasper, the owner, has all the sports packages available for you. And you can catch the NFL Thursday night game on Prime, on their TVs, through DirecTV Business. All right, I'm Vassy Vadaparty. Take care. Have a good Thursday afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific, with a World Series preview. And then we'll be back with a full college preview, possible NFL preview for the weekend at 5 o'clock Eastern. I'm Vassy Vadaparty. Have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.